Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of This Week in Innovation. Today, Brian and I caught up with the folks at Delivery Solutions to talk about last mile orchestration. Really interesting subject and an area that's clearly going to be increasing and expanding dramatically. I met these folks at Manifest, which is a new conference that I highly recommend. It's focused on logistics and last mile orchestration, an awful lot of startup stuff, really good conference, and definitely put it on your calendars for next year. Now, give this interview a listen and let us know what you think. Hey, Brian, how you doing today?
Doing great, Jeff. How are you?
Really good. Hey, I'm really excited about today's interview. I bumped into these guys at Manifest last month or so, and I think they have a really interesting story. So, Manil Uppal, a founder of Delivery Solutions, you there?
Yes, I'm on, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Hey, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about what your company's, what you're doing?
Sure. So my name is Manil Uppal. I'm one of the founders of Delivery Solutions. Delivery Solutions is a connectivity and an orchestration platform that's used by retailers and other platforms. And we help our customers with use cases around same-day delivery, Curbside, BOPIS, shipping, and then we do have a full stack holistic post-purchase solution. So as a lot of retailers are looking to solve problems around quicker, better, faster experience for their customers, we are that one-stop shop that helps them go to market quicker and faster on all of these use cases.
So what would be an example of how a company or a retailer would use you? What's the start? What are they thinking about? What are they trying to figure out and solve? And then how do they plug you in?
Yeah, so for example, we work across all verticals of retail. So we have customers who are in grocery space, alcohol, specialty retail, apparel, logistics, supply chain, things like that. If you take a very traditional example of a retailer, somebody like a Sephora, for example, is a customer of ours. So the digital Omni folks at Sephora are looking to see if they can get their products faster than their customers, specifically from a same-day context. So how do they set across enabling this brand new channel in their omni-channel strategy and start offering it to the customers? So there are touch points that are all the way from the e-commerce and what needs to be done there versus on the post-order side, what needs to be done at the store level, which vendors they need to be working with. And ours is the platform, that supplies all other technology to get this end-to-end executed. So that would be a very traditional example of where we help a lot of retailers add the same-day delivery channel as a part of their holistic, omni-channel strategy. And like I said, it's end-to-end from when the customer has landed on the e-commerce and is browsing and shopping all the way to order getting delivered. We are a vendor, we are a delivery partner, and that entire post-purchase communication and feedback back to the customers.
This is definitely a very interesting space, Manil, especially given the fact that because of COVID and frictionless, we ourselves, my company, we have worked with a lot of major providers and retailers, especially in the convenience store space. Is very interesting to do delivery because the same day is a big deal. How quickly can you get things to folks? How are you currently thinking about, does your platform today facilitate sort of an API on top of existing delivery services, or do you have own staff delivering it? How does that ecosystem work? Let's not have that ecosystem to bring in.
Yeah, we stayed away from doing our own delivery. So we basically invented the space of same-day last mile aggregation. That was actually the big founding idea of this company. So we were the first company when we started 5 years ago. We took an Uber, put it next to a Lyft, put it next to an Instacart, next to a DoorDash, next to a Ship, and created this wrapper around all of these companies. So we have one API that's facing the retailer or the platform. And then the other side, we do two major things. One is universal connectivity, right? We are connected to everybody in the same day space. Not only delivery providers, but think IoT solutions like lockers and those kind of things, or new age stuff like autonomous drones. Whoever you want to get connected to, it's already there. One-to-many API connectivity. And the second thing is orchestration. Now, which order goes where to which provider, from which location, for what type of customer, based on what criteria, that entire delivery strategy is configuration on the platform. So the retailer does not have to write any code, or we don't have to write any code, but it's all in a config format where they can then execute on whatever their ideal delivery strategy is for their business, for their customers. And so that's kind of how we function.
Okay, no, this is actually super interesting. So how does that, so that means the cost of delivery would vary based on time and that amount. And so the customer would actually choose the option during checkout. So you have a little plugin that kind of goes through that.
Yeah, we surface the options through API, but in general, we work with mostly big enterprise retail. Big enterprise retailers don't usually want to subject their customers to variances in price. So on the customer side, they'll probably pick a fixed price that, hey, it's $9.99, $7.99, or what have you. So you as a customer have that consistent experience every time you land on their website. On the back end, yes, the price varies depending on the vendor, time, distance, the type of contract, etc. And that's where on the back end, our system is optimizing. And if they want us to rate, we can do that or whatever else their delivery strategy is. But we're keeping the customer insulated from variances and complications and around the space.
Okay, great. And then when the final delivery provider is selected, for example, a Lyft or something, the customer will let know that, and you'll also tell them the current. It's always helps from a customer's perspective, but they have an assurance that like this provider will deliver to your last month.
Yeah. Even in that space, if we have our entire post-purchase stack, so the communications to the customer is all white label. So it's happening as the brand, right? So whether it's think outbound like email or SMS, or think sort of hosted pages, but the hosted pages are branded to the customer's website where you can come and see where's your order and you can see all of the order and things like that. I think the customer does not, fully white label implementation, the end customer doesn't know which provider it is until that person actually shows up at the door. The entire journey is white labeled to the customer's brand. So, and that was one of, again, the founding principles of our company was we wanted the brands that we work with to offer this experience white label all the way to the last mile. Keep the customer captivated into the brand all the way to the end of the journey. I mean, it used to be the case if you wanted faster delivery back in the day, you had to jump on to get that done. So now you're transferring your customer to the marketplace. There is the marketplace brand experience, stuff like that. We are the entire strategy in the sense that we want to enable the retailers offer this on their own brand all the way end to end. So that's what we facilitate.
Yeah, this is definitely fascinating, Manil, because given the fact that I was reading, I don't know if you've read this book, Jeff Lawson's Ask Your Developer, where he talks about the software supply chain, where, like the pieces of where retailers and traditional companies get to stitch pieces of software and get a very complicated, very complex ecosystem delivered to them. But they are not really necessarily have to deal with that complexity because everything else is like stitched through like the service and the offering.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. I don't think it will ever be like one big block. There's going to be still bigger blocks like e-commerce, order management. But yes, within our block, we're trying to abstract as much complexity as possible for the type of retailer that can stitch the best of breed solutions in their tech stack. So that's exactly what we're doing is we're offering one layer, which is basically an orchestration layer that sits above all fulfillment options. So whether you're shipping same day, whether your customer's coming to the store to pick up, whether you're doing some type of locker or collection points, pickup points, all of that stuff, all of that's abstracted by this one SaaS layer, right? And then everything else beyond that is like config and things like that. Versus the retailer trying to figure out, oh, look, I'm trying to do something new. That's a 6-month process of an e-commerce release and this and that. No, it's just config. Just go. 2 days.
Yeah. And also given the fact that there's so much legacy systems and warehouse systems sitting in different places, it's a much bigger lift for the retailer compared to working with a more modern stack solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you worry about, is that your job to worry about the quality of the actual delivery of whatever route or whatever provider that you use, Uber, Lyft, all these?
Yeah, it's absolutely our job to make sure that the outcome is within the desired SLA that the customer signed up for. Because at checkout, the customer, is saying same day. Beyond that, we also go one level deeper and provide slots as to, okay, Jeff, you wanted the same day, so do you want it between like 10 and 12 or 12 and 2 or things like that? So once you've, as a retailer, taken that commitment up front that, hey, you know what, we're gonna get this delivered between this time and this time, then yes, then the retailer has to keep up to that promise. And it's our job using our software to make sure that happens. So we have a lot of features in the platform that are proactive in terms of like self-healing, self-awareness, also reactive in terms of like exception management. So as we have dispatched a delivery, we're actually tracking it. And the system, if it's seeing risk or if it's seeing that this provider has not yet sent a driver to pick up the order and things like that, we're automatically pulling that back, giving it to the next one and things like that. So all of these are other config elements where we, from a no-touch standpoint, help retailers and their customer service kind of manage and take care of 95+% of the exceptions just systematically as we see risk in the progression of the deliveries.
And how does this work in terms of one of the challenges? Because we've worked in a couple of systems in the past, like this type of systems, right? One of the challenges that we've always faced is like when the picker goes to the retailer, the associates are not fully aware through whatever the current, because of all the legacy systems, or they don't necessarily cooperate very well. Like how are you guys tackling that?
We have a piece of our solution that is also store facing. We call it the app. If you think of a particular store, what are the touch points on that store, right? There are customers obviously walking in. Then there are customers who are coming to pick up their orders using buy online, pick up in store. There are customers coming to get their orders curbside if that retailer has that functionality. And then there are drivers coming to pick up orders for delivery orders and stuff like that. In terms of customers coming in, or drivers coming in, for the customers, we're tracking them using our Curbside BOPIS technologies. So as soon as you're on the way, we know where you are, when you're going to be, at the store. We're tracking drivers coming in, and we're showing the store associates on a dashboard that, oh, look, you know what, Jeff, the customer, he's 5 minutes out. Get ready with this. And customers can set up geofences and exactly like calibrate exactly what type of heads up you want. You want a 10-minute heads up, 15 minutes. And then we can say, oh, and the next is
on a web interface, right, Manil? They don't need to download a special app.
This is web interface. First of all, we have many ways, right? So web interface is one of it, right? Where we also have SSO, and you can integrate it again into your existing store portal. The second thing is all of this information is also surfaced using API and webhooks. So if you want to take our data and then build it into your own app, that piece is available as well. A lot of these stores have handheld like Zebra devices that the associates are carrying. So you can pipe the data, into your store app that's running on that Android platform. So there are many ways. We sit on all the data, and our job is to show it to store associates so that the experiences for the customer is more delightful. Also, labor is very finite. These stores, they're not running with 20 associates in the store and stuff like that. So when you only have 2 or 3 associates, how do you make them extremely efficient so that they can also serve the customers that are coming in, but they can also get ready for a customer who's doing a pickup order or a driver who's coming to pick up a delivery order and stuff like that? How do you smoothen that entire process with limited labor, right, in the store? So we have solutions that help with that.
Very cool. Very cool. I think it's great that you sort of thought about the entire touch point all the way from front of the customer to back on the associate, because I think, that there is problems everywhere, and it's great to see that you have solutions at every place here. Fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in our DNA, when we think of a use case, we started this company with the same-day delivery use case. Our lens was end-to-end, right? We didn't set out to build a order management system or a TMS system or whatever. We said we're going to solve the problem of same-day delivery end-to-end. And when we say end-to-end, for us, that meant I had checked on e-commerce, all the way from homepage to PLP, PDP, cart, all of those interfaces, down to order management, what happens in the store ops level, what are the touch points of the customer, what are the touch points with delivery providers, all of it. It's the entire ecosystem that we sat down to solve, right?
Do you have a sense for what the rate of increase for same-day delivery is? All the analysts have speculated that we'll see almost a hockey stick, but you're probably the one person that actually has real data. Do you have a sense? Is it continuing to grow? We're not through COVID yet, but at least in the space we are now where people are beginning to return to stores. Do you have a sense on that?
Preface my answer by saying same day at this point is table stakes in anybody's omni-channel strategy. You not offer it. The consumer of today is saying, look, I can get my food same day. I can get my groceries same day. Forget about everything else. The Amazon is teaching the customer about convenience and how to get stuff. So if you're any retailer or any brand, it's not something that is not an option anymore. You have to have some capability. So that's, just an overarching thing that sits above everything else. Secondly, in terms of penetration, what we have seen with our customers, if you have a scaled out omni-channel strategy where you have curbside, BOPIS, and you also have same-day delivery, for example, things change between vertical, but the general ratios we're seeing, it's 65-35 or 70-30 curbside to same day, or BOPIS curbside to same day. So the pickup has greater volumes, partly because pickup's free for the most part, or at least retailers are not charging for the most consumers to come, drive to the store and pick up the orders, right? Same day delivery, for the most part, the consumers do have to pay for it, right? Whether it's $5.99, $7.99, the retailers are asking them to pay and things like that. So that's typically the ratios we've seen. But when you look at price sensitivity of a consumer towards delivery, and we had some of our retailers do some experiment, what we found was when you cut the price of same-day delivery by half, so say you were offering it for $9.99 and now you're offering it for $4.99, the volume went up 6x. Like, it's just crazy to see that price sensitivity graph for any customer. So what this says is, if there's ever a day when same-day deliveries became universally free, the volumes are going to go through the roof. Because at the end of the day, who doesn't want free delivery? It's the most ultimate convenience. And in traditional e-commerce, we do see that every retailer, for the most part, subsidizes your 7-day ground shipping. That's free, right? Because they extract product margin. But now I don't think that day is far away where retailers and other e-commerce players will start applying that same lens to same day as well. Why not subsidize this as well, or so that it increases the level of spend retailers and consumers have with you, and they come back more and more because it's more convenient just to get your product. So we'll probably see that.
It also happens, Manil. I think the whole delivery networks and all these systems like Uber and all, they also constantly, the efficiencies kick in, right? So for them also, prices begin to go down as well as a lot of these things happen.
Yeah. And industry is constantly also being disrupted, right? Newer technologies are coming in, the drones are coming. They are coming. It will start to get better. Even the last mile providers like the Ubers and DoorDashes and the Roadies of the world, they will get better and better with batching and route optimizing and start passing these efficiencies back, right, to where not everything needs to be in an hour. Maybe it's every 4 hours, and that gives the retailer opportunity to batch to where the prices come down. We'll start seeing that shift. We're already seeing that shift towards optimization. A lot of our older clients who have rolled this out 4 years ago, they have seen the movie at scale, and now they're turning the optimization leverage versus somebody who's just rolled this out. So we're already seeing people trying to optimize the application and stuff like that.
And also interesting is if somebody like Amazon or somebody just like Prime, they start adding a lot of these like same day delivery mechanisms more gracefully, then the pressures would kick in, especially for like different items, like everyday use items like grocery and all those things.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
I love the idea of optimization of same-day delivery. I didn't realize we were that sophisticated already, but I'm glad to hear it, because as an old retailer, I get real nervous at whether this really pays for itself or whatnot. But the more we can batch, and if we can start to talk about batching same day, that sure makes a whole heck of a lot more sense.
I'll give you a practical example, Jeff. Right now, we never shop for our groceries at Safeway. We basically have a pickup because we have a list, and then we pick it up on Sundays because it's very depressing to shop for groceries. It's a very practical example, right? It's like one of those chores you want to avoid, right? But then now with the same button, if Safeway offers delivery, they do, but like their prices are higher. It's not very stable. But assuming that it becomes more stable and then more affordable, suddenly you can just enable that. And then it just shows up in your front door. Just like everything from Amazon shows up.
What are some of the retailers that you work with?
We work across all verticals of retail. If you look at grocery, for example, because Brian just mentioned grocery, but Loblaw, Wakefern, your Price Right, ShopRite banners, Giant Eagle, Lowest Foods, United Supermarkets. So we work with a lot of these big growth, but we also power grocery platforms. So if you're a grocery e-commerce platform like WinShop, the Thrive AI WinShop folks, or who have other grocers on your platform. So a big part of our business is not just working with direct retailers, but we also work with platforms who have other retailers on them. So in grocery, WinShop's a good example. If you look at the alcohol vertical, the biggest alcohol retailer in the US, Total Wine & More, all their delivery flows to us. But on the same token, we also work with alcohol e-commerce platforms like Thirsty, for example, and Swig, and so on and so forth. If you look at specialty retail, Michaels, GameStop. If you look at apparel, Abercrombie, PacSun, Belk, beauty, Sally Beauty, Sephora. If you look at big and bulk, Office Depot, At Home. If you look at supply chain players like micro warehousing players like Flex, shipping players like Pitney Bowes. Pitney has a same-day delivery capability. All of that's 100% white label delivery solutions. So we work across the spectrum, both retailers and platforms, right? Which is, we're very fortunate to be in that seat because we get to see this from many different angles. And that's why the platform is where it's at the level it's at, because we looked at the same problem in different facets and tried to solve for all the intricacies and try to solve it in a way where it's, leverageable by like different verticals of retail. So that kind of gives you an idea of the spectrum that we deal with.
There's been a pretty significant increase in retail theft lately. Does your capabilities, your technology have any way of managing that potential loss?
Yeah, I think one way we kind of help in the realm is for a lot of our customers, we're like the single source of truth of what exactly is happening, right? They may have a complex fulfillment strategy that deals, with shipping and parcel players, and that deals with like same day delivery and those type of players. Our platform is the one that's connected to all of them and orchestrating all of it. All the data sits in our platform, and we exactly map out where the chain of custody is of that particular item at all times, right? Is it ready for pickup? Is it staged? Is it now transferred to the delivery provider and now it's en route? Oh, can I look at the delivery and can I track the driver on the map? We have all of that stuff. Oh, now it's handed over to the customer. Here's the customer signature, all of that stuff. So we are able to show the chain of custody for everybody. And that kind of helps. If there is something that goes wrong, you can exactly see where the problem happened and take steps to prevent things like that. So we help on that side by visibility, awareness, exception handling, some of those items, right, is how we help in that realm.
So you can track it right down to the person's doorstep.
Yeah. We track it down to which driver took it, what's his name, what car he's driving, what's his phone number, where is he right now, and you can see the driver on the map. Doesn't matter if the driver is a DoorDash driver or Uber driver or their own fleet driver. And then when it's handed over to the customer, or if they leave it at the door and you take a picture and things like that, or maybe there's some items that are signature required. So, that actual handoff happens and the customer signs for it. Now, there's also some newer technologies coming like lock boxes in the house, or these refrigerated where you can like smart box, and that's something else that a platform like ours can handle, right? Where a delivery driver is showing up at the house, there's a smart lock box in the house, and he's got the code to unlock it. He can put it in there. The box locks itself, and all of that is tracked as well. So we haven't seen that take off too much, but Walmart was going to experimenting with some of that stuff. But there are a lot of technologies that are not mainstream right now. They're all available through this platform. So any retailer who's wanting to invest and experiment with even some of the more newer age stuff. So think deliveries into the garage, or things deliveries to the trunk of somebody's car, and all that integration that needs to happen. A platform like ours would take care of things like that as well.
Do you have a position on whether it's one of the things the analysts get asked about, whether somebody should, a driver or delivery person should have access to a person's house or a garage? Do you have a position on that, or are you just agnostic?
We are very successful because we are very agnostic. So I think we leave the decision up to our customers and what experience they want to craft for their customer, for their end customers. And we can help facilitate. And then if there are some checks and safeguards and balances that can be built in, we can use technology and deploy it to do that. But as a company, it works out well. We stay agnostic on matters like this.
This isn't your first startup. So what you want to just talk a little bit about your first startup, which sounds amazing, and then maybe some of the lessons learned, and how did those lessons impact what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's always a good story to tell. So prior to this company, me and my co-founder, we had a different company called lastmiledelivery. We were actually in the alcohol on-demand delivery. So it was basically B2C e-commerce. So we had an app on the web, we had a website where you could order beer, wine, and spirits and delivered to your door 60 minutes. I think it's circa 2013. It was there. We not only had the e-commerce piece, but we partnered with a lot of liquor stores for the inventory. And we also had the delivery component. We had our own drivers. First, it was a fleet, and then we changed over to the gig model, just like we were in the business of doing our own thing. So it was a pretty complicated business, very highly technology driven and things like that. And during the course of that, our drivers were delivering orders that came on our app. So we said, hey, a lot of people need same day, and doesn't seem like there's a lot of same day options. So we also started 3PLing our delivery to who wanted same day. So one of our biggest customers actually was Instacart, where every alcohol order Instacart was taking in the state of Texas was being delivered by Last Drive. So which was pretty interesting and a very great experience to where, so we pretty much had a delivery service that was also a 3PL, also delivering for our own app. We eventually got acquired by HEB, which is a big grocer in the Texas area. And there were a lot of lessons learned in this journey. One was we made a bet that like how we opened our fleet up to other people as a 3PL, we made a bet that, Uber would probably do more than rides, DoorDash will do more than food, and things like that. And these other large fleets that are only doing one thing today will probably open up for generic retail deliveries And we made a bet that when that happens, we should make it easy, and we should have a capability for a retailer or anybody else to consume the combined powers of all of these fleets. That was the big founding idea based on the lessons learned from last delivery, right? Some of the other lessons learned were we kept what we thought was good, what we were good at, and we got rid of what we didn't think we were very strong at. So we were not the best B2C marketeers for our app. I'll be first to admit it, right? So that's why SaaS is that's why delivery solutions strict B2B. We also learned that doing deliveries is extremely hard. So all the respect to all the delivery partners we work with, but that was hard. So we said, okay, this time around, we won't be in the delivery. We'll facilitate it, but we won't actually touch the product. We'll be in the delivery business ourselves. But our experience running deliveries with hundreds of drivers did help shape the point of view that we had during this product. So we kept things we were good at. We were great at tech. That's the core of our platform. And we got rid of things that we were sort of suboptimal. And that's kind of what shapes what we are today.
There's a lot of life lessons there. We have an awful lot of entrepreneurs that matter of fact, we are, and we're dedicated entrepreneurs. So I think the thing that I heard you say, the thought of delivering alcohol and having drivers deliver, that has to be the biggest headache imaginable. I cannot imagine a more complex mess than to have people, young guys, probably guys, delivering alcohol. Yeah. But then you were smart as you evolved to think about what was good, what was not good. Was it hard getting rid of the delivery aspect, or was it probably pretty easy to say, no, it's a headache, let's not do it?
No, we got out of that business because of the acquisition. So then all of that was transferred over.
But were you tempted to think about delivery again in this next iteration, or was it, no, not a chance? Because gig was already, yeah.
Been there, done that. It was a hard business to be in. Even back now, I think, look, now there's more technology available to make on how you source drivers, recruit drivers, how you automatically pay them. And technology has come a long way. But 8-9 years ago, there was not all of these tools available for this space, and we had to create everything by hand and from scratch. Things were hard back then. And yeah, we were very clear about, okay, we've learned the business, we know what it is. Yeah, we couldn't have picked a more complex use case to also do the app and the B2C piece, and then also do all the logistics piece. And also on a product which has age restrictions, and you got to do ID checks, and there's like a lot of regulation on the product in terms of zoning and things like that. So we picked like the absolute worst thing to go crack. But hey, we wouldn't have our delivery solutions if we had not gone through that. That was all good. It's great we had an exit on that. So that was good. And then that did help shape who we are today.
So I had a chance to listen to you at Manifest, which was from my perspective, just an amazing conference. You talked about the increase in companies shifting to SaaS platforms that are holistic versus the single provider, which I thought was really interesting. What other trends are you seeing that you anticipate in the next year or so?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, right? So one is it's the more problems you can solve, the more simple you can make it, the more adoption you'll see. So the retailers don't have to, or customers don't have to sit and stitch point solutions for like single use cases. So that's why I think our solution has so much traction, is because we're able to solve a lot of use cases just in one API, right? So once you connect to us one time, you've got your same day solved, you've got your shipping solved, you've got your curbside BOPIS solved. All that becomes configuration. So there's a lot of demand and adoption for things like that. The other thing I think that we'll see is as customers have rolled out some of these new apps, as we were talking before, there will be a recalibration around optimization. It'll happen on the service provider side, right? On the DoorDashes, Ubers, the Instacarts on the Shipt side. It'll also happen on the retailer side, where the way they'll demand shape, and maybe, Jeff, not everything needs to be in and out. Maybe there's a better solution between a 2-day ship using FedEx and a 1 out. Maybe the right optimal answer is somewhere in the middle. A lot of retailers are going to experimenting with that, but we'll see more of that in there. Also, blending in your shipping operations and your same day operations to find the most optimal outcome for your customer. We had another customer do an analysis, right? They have about 2,000 stores, but they also ship a lot from the DCs. And they said, okay, they looked at all the shipping that they did from DCs nationwide, and this is before the launch same day delivery. They're like, okay, what percentage of our customers that we're shipping from live within 15 miles of our store? The answer was an astonishing 15 to 17%. Of the customers are actually within driving like 10 miles of a store or 12 miles of a store. So instead of shipping all of these packets same day, you can alleviate some of the stress from the DCs and all your quotas you have around ship volume and stuff like that. and kind of start using stores as this like forward deployed fulfillment centers, if you will, in a way, and start doing either ship from store or deliver from store and things like that. So this blend of all the channels, whether it's like ship and deliver from store, and even the customers coming in to shop, trying to make it a little more seamless to the customer. We're seeing a lot of the work on that end, right, with some of our more mature customers.
So you had a recent announcement with a small little retailer. Do you want to talk about what you're doing?
So we just announced a partnership with Walmart Go Local. So what Walmart did there was they had their in-house delivery service, which is basically based on a gig model economy that they were using exclusively for delivery for all of the Walmart locations for their own same-day deliveries. So now they basically took all of that tech and they, for the lack of a better term, AWS'd it to where now they're offering. I know there's a better term, and that seems to be the standard. They're offering the tech to any other retailer or platform who wants to use their in-house delivery service to facilitate their orders. Like how we have partnered with so many different delivery providers, we just set up our integration and partnership with them, which is a great welcome addition in the world of same-day delivery. I think the more providers there are, and each one of them brings their unique perspective, their unique coverage, their unique way of doing business. I think at the end of the day, it's the retailers that benefit, right? Where they can use platforms like ours and tap into the combined orchestration, the combined coverage, and the cost efficiencies of these multiple vendors. So it's a great thing for the industry, for somebody like a Walmart to also jump into the fray. And goes back to our earlier thesis, right? We always said these networks will open up. And that's exactly keeps happening. The Walmart network was very internal to there. And now they've opened it up. And that's, we keep seeing that time and time again.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Especially given the fact that everything is going international. He was working with a couple of Latin American providers. There you have players like Rappi and all these guys. So now if you were to be an international chain that has American, Canada rate, as well as Latin American plus European, now a network like this is really interesting because now it's just a one-stop shop instead of thousands of, not thousands, but at least a couple of handful of dozens of point solutions.
And international, Brian, is coming for us, right? So we already launched in Australia last year. We've got a big alcohol retailer over there. We have Europe coming here very soon because a lot of our customers are also international. We rolled out their US stores and now they're like, okay, done that in the US and Canada. Now, we have stores in Europe and let's go roll that out. So our customers are organically taking us international. This year, we're also going to be focused by having sales staff and other resources now in this international locations as well. Yeah,
that's such a strong indication of how rapidly maturing this space is. That I love the idea that we're maximizing that delivery capacity because that's going to make a lot more sense, more sustainable, all that good stuff. Hey, in wrapping up, I always like to ask the last two questions. What advice would you give for budding entrepreneurs?
I think some of the lessons learned for me, and one of the biggest ones is, it's kind of become a philosophy for me, is, there's never a good time for anything. I think, and that's my philosophy, is like, I think a lot of people wait for the ideal time to get something going and get something started. And I just think that the concept of the right time is it's a fallacy. There's no such thing. The right time never exists. There's never a right time for anything. There's always something or the other happening. Our world is very complex. I think pulling the trigger, taking that shot, even when you don't think you're ready, just making the right moves in that direction itself is a big step forward. You may stumble, you may fail and things like that. But if you sit and wait for the right conditions and the right opportunity and this and that, you'll probably squander away a lot of years and stuff like that. So I think, I know it's a little bit philosophical, but that's how, if I distill down like the last 7-9 years of my life, that's one of the biggest lessons in the lab life, right?
Good stuff. One last question. What skills that you use today do you wish you would have paid more attention to back in the early part of your career or back in college?
Yeah. I think I came from a corporate background. I used to work for Cisco in tech support consulting and then eventually sales for them. And then I went from there to having an app that delivers booze. So nothing in my corporate kid prepared me for that switch. But I think one thing that if I look back now is in my career, I didn't have a lot of men who were entrepreneurs and I was not exposed to that world. It was almost like for 15 years, I was in the corporate world and that's the only world I knew. And I never bothered to look beyond my, right? It was all about, hey, I work for this company. This is my mission. This is all I'm doing. No reading. So I think getting out of your comfort zone and looking at other people and just engaging with people who are different than you and who are doing different things, that helps a lot. I wish I had much sooner. And also, I think finding the right mentors, right? You don't have to go figure everything out yourself. There are people who have seen this movie before. There are people who have starred in this movies and, have had great roles. I think half hour, 1 hour with those people is really save you a lot of time and effort. These are things that I didn't do if I just exposed more and went and sought some mentor, that would have made maybe, I wouldn't have done I made, 50 mistakes. I probably wouldn't have made 25 if I had some exposure.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm going to ask one follow-up question. So I lied. One follow-up question on that. And I bet I know the answer to this. You mentioned lack of mentors. And I hear that from a lot of the kids that I talk to in various colleges around these things. I'm curious, how many people young people have reached out to you to ask to be mentored, or two, asked for maybe a half hour of your time, just saying, hey, I'm a young entrepreneur, give me 3 or 4 thoughts or something? I'm just curious, how many kids have reached out to you?
0. The only, my school, I went to business school at Duke. And Duke has a very good entrepreneurship program where they go to the alumni who are now in entrepreneurship, and they invited me to come and chat with all of their students for their current class and stuff like that. So I think that was one thing I did last year, and that was like highly fulfilling. But it was under the Duke banners, and they facilitated that. But nobody organically has come and said, I'm trying to do something. I have lots to say. And it's very important, right? It's very important that you don't have to reinvent the wheel like from scratch every time. You just have to have the guts to ask. That's the point I want to get at. And thanks for the time today. Very interesting stuff. How can retailers get? We are at www.deliverysolutions.co. There's a contact form over there, so you can just hit us up on that. And or on LinkedIn. These are the 2 primary ways that they can get in touch with us. And, we're very responsive, and we'd be happy to chat about, any of the use cases where we can add value. Fantastic. Thanks for your time today. I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jeff. I really enjoyed it. So I appreciate you having me on. Thank you again. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode. For more info, refer to the pod notes below. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps us grow. I'm your host, Jeff Roster, analyst at large. If you want to connect, follow us on Twitter at JeffPR or at Brian Sathianathan, or connect with us on LinkedIn. Visit my website at roster.retail.com or Brian's at iterate.ai. Until next time, stay safe and have a great week.